If you like this video, consider leaving a comment, and like and subscribe to the channel for more. The signal nobody wanted. The Ravik system used to be beautiful. Once, its main world, Ravik Prime, shone with crystal towers and mirrored spires, a trading jewel where 6 species met in daylight. Now the light was gone. Black clouds crawled over the planet like mold over glass. The upper atmosphere boiled, not with weather, but with will. A presence pressing down from orbit, probing, seeking. Over that dark world, a single beacon flickered. This is Ravik Prime. Civil authority fallen, defense shield breached, civilian population compromised. Any vessel, any flag, please respond. We are losing the sky. The message played, then looped. Played, then looped. For 12 hours. Across a silent galaxy, most ships ignored it. Some rerouted away from it. The Galactic Confederacy flagged it high risk, no entry. Smugglers called it bad luck. Patrol fleets called it not our sector. But in the dark of human space, aboard a spear-shaped strike cruiser called the ES Valkyrie, one man heard it and leaned forward. Commander Elias Miles stood on the Valkyrie's bridge, hands folded behind his back, gray-blue eyes fixed on the holographic playback. He looked like someone who had already done his war and would very much prefer not to do another. Broad-shouldered, early 40s, dark hair clipped short, uniform neat without being vain. The distress call ended. The bridge fell silent. Miles said quietly, "Play it again." The comms officer, Ensign Yara, swallowed. "Sir, that's the 12th. Again, Ensign." The broken voice of an alien, strained and hoarse, poured back through the speakers. "Any vessel, any flag, please respond." Lieutenant Jax Rion, the ship's pilot, turned in his chair. Young, dark-skinned, permanently wearing the crooked smile of someone who didn't believe in his own mortality. "Whole Confederacy won't touch it," Jax said, "which means it's either a trap, a plague, or an accounting audit. Honestly, the last one is worst." Miles didn't smile. "It's not a trap." "How do you know?" "Because nobody lies like that," Miles said. "That's the sound of a world waiting to die." From the tactical pit, Sergeant Cole Brandt, the Marine Detachment lead, grunted. Thick-necked, blonde going to steel, expression somewhere between, "I don't like this and I will do it anyway." "Commander, with respect," Brandt said, "that system is red-zoned. Confederacy posted hard do not enter, so either they know something we don't, or they're cowards." "Or both," Jax muttered. Miles looked at the stars on the forward screen, at the flashing red icon of the Ravik system. He tapped the console, opening a secure channel to Fleet Command. "This is Commander Elias Miles of the EAS Valkyrie. We have received a live distress beacon from Ravik Prime, Confederacy Space, priority civilian loss. Requesting authorization to investigate, render aid, and if necessary, engage hostile presence." A pause. Then Command answered. "Cold, clipped, worlds away. Valkyrie, this is Solsec. Distress from Ravik Prime has been noted. Situation assessed as contained within Confederacy jurisdiction. Terran Navy is advised to maintain border patrol and not escalate in non-human sectors." "Copy last," Miles said. "Advisement noted." Jax glanced back. "So we're not going?" Miles cut the channel. "No," he said. "We're going." Yara blinked. "Sir, Command just—" "I heard them," Miles said, voice even. "I also heard them." He pointed at the beacon. "Set course for the Ravik system. Best speed." Jax grinned. "Aye, sir, plotting course for the place sensible people avoid." Brandt shook his head. "Deathworlders," he muttered. "Born with the ignore warning signs gene." Miles looked out at the dark. "Someone has to answer," he said. "Might as well be the ones built for bad news." Jax leaned back in his chair, boots on the table. "Jax, you know what this means, right? We're officially volunteering for Extinction." "Speak for yourself. I've been volunteering for bad ideas since boot camp." Yara looked up from her datapad. "Fleet Command's not sending backup. It's just us. Yeah, that's what makes it fun." Miles listened quietly, fingers wrapped around a steel mug. He wasn't a speech man. His crew already knew what kind of people they were. He thought of Titan 9, of a signal they'd answered too late. He still heard the silence that followed. "Miles, we're not going to make history," he said at last. "We're going to make sure someone else gets to." "Jax, that's actually kind of poetic, sir." Brant: "Yeah, weirdly depressing too." They laughed, the kind of laugh that soldiers use to keep the ghosts at bay. The Valkyrie dropped out of FTL on the edge of a graveyard. Broken stations drifted through thin dust. Civilian freighters lay split open, cargo spilling like entrails. Defense satellites spun aimlessly, their guns cold. And ahead, Ravik Prime, wrapped in black. Not natural black, not a storm. This was like looking at mold under a microscope, patches, threads, filaments, all moving. Yara whispered, "That's not weather," Miles said. "That's them." Jax whistled low. "We finally meeting the eclipsed, huh?" Brant spat metaphorically. "Parasite fleet. Takes what it kills, folds it back into itself. I heard stories from the frontier." "Stories are always worse than reality," Jax said. "Not this time." Yara looked at Miles. "Sir, Confederacy censor buoys tagged this incursion as Eclipse Swarm/High Intelligence Adaptive." Miles nodded. "All right, then we don't give it much to adapt to." He tapped the ship wide. "Attention, all hands. This is Commander Miles. We are entering an active distress zone. This is not a drill. Marines to assault prep, med teams on standby, engineering ready to support ground operations. Our objective is simple. Find survivors, stabilize situation, and get them out. I know this isn't our war. I know the galaxy said leave it." He paused. "We've been the ones no one came for. We will not be the ones who turn away. Miles out." Brant grunted, approving. "That'll preach." Jax pointed to port. "Contact. One live structure, city-size southeast hemisphere." The holo zoomed in. Beneath the black cloud layer was a shining shape, a dome of crystal and light, battered but holding. Yara read the transponder. "It's a Ravik civilian citadel. They've sealed the upper tiers. Power low, defenses active but flickering." "Any friendlies in orbit?" Miles asked. "Negative. Confederacy fleets never arrived." "So they called for help." Miles' jaw tightened. "And no one came." Jax looked at him. "Except us." "Except us," Miles said. "Put us over that citadel. Brant, get me 2 squads prepped. We go down and say hello." Brant's eyes lit, the look of a soldier given permission to do what he does best. "Aye, sir, Marines to the bird, full breach kits." Jax raised a brow. "We're going down into that?" Miles shrugged. "You wanted to see worse." The drop ship punched through the black layer. It was like flying through oil. Jax handled the stick, teeth clenched. "This fog is thinking about us. That's unsettling." Miles sat beside the door, helmet in his lap, pulse rifle clipped to his chest, watching the dark smear along the canopy. Then they broke through. Beneath the cloud, the city glowed. The Ravik built in crystal spirals, translucent towers spun like glass trees. Now many were cracked, slumped, or scorched. The citadel's main shield shimmered pale blue, straining under constant impacts from things. Black, darting shapes slamming themselves mindlessly at it. Yara's voice came over comms from the ship. "Commander, shield integrity at 31%. At that rate, Citadel falls in under 2 hours." "Then let's give them 2 hours worth of hope," Miles said. They touched down on the main platform. The shield opened a narrow gap for them to enter. Aliens were waiting. The Ravik were tall, willowy beings with pale crystalline skin that refracted light, faces like carved marble, eyes faintly glowing. But these were tired, bruised, and many carried makeshift weapons. One stepped forward, older, hunched, wearing a cracked archivist circlet. "I am Varn, senior archivist of Ravik Prime," he said, voice thin. "You came." "We heard you," Miles said, stepping off the ramp, helmet under his arm. "Commander Elias Miles, Terran Navy, ship Valkyrie. We're here to control your sky." Varn looked like he might cry if his species had built the feature. "We called the Confederacy," Varn said. "They said the swarm could not be stopped, that the loss had to be contained." Brant muttered, translation, "They didn't want to die for you." Miles ignored him. "We're here. Tell me what we're up against." Varn gestured shakily to the shield. Outside, black shapes slammed into it, screamed, disintegrated, reformed. The eclipsed. They were a forgotten weapon once, nanite-driven host, but it grew, it learned. It wants not our world but our minds. It copies what it kills. It assimilates, Miles said. Yes, what it touches, sings with it. Varn's voice dropped. I have heard my own people, screaming from their mouths. Jax swallowed hard. Okay, hate that. Miles nodded. All right, here's what we do. We reinforce your shield, we move your civilians to interior sectors, we get orbital guns back online, and we call in anyone with a spine. Varn blinked. You believe this can be stopped? Miles looked up at the black sky. I believe, he said, that fear is worse than them, so we kill the fear first. Varn insisted on showing them what they were saving. Through corridors of glass and light they walked, halls that shimmered with memory. Every wall sang faintly. The Ravik had etched harmonic filaments into the crystal so that footsteps made music. Varn, our ancestors believed that sound kept the dark away. Every tone a shield, every echo a prayer. Brant whispered, looking around. Hell of a hymn. Narrator, children peered from alcoves, eyes luminous, clutching small spheres of light. One approached Miles, holding out a fragment of crystal no larger than his palm. He accepted it wordlessly. The child smiled, a gesture almost human, then darted back into the crowd. Miles, you build art in the middle of war. Because war ends, beauty doesn't. Miles nodded once. The words felt heavier than armor. Back aboard the Valkyrie, engineering teams dumped power into the Citadel's shield grid through a tether. On the ground, human marines worked alongside Ravik defense teams, laying down portable emitters, dragging barricades. Brant stalked the line like a wolf. You, tall, glassy, grab that crate. You, shiny helmet, cover that breach. You, a Ravik soldier frowned. We are not glassy. You are now, Brant said. Welcome to being allied with humans. We nickname everything. Jax, up in the dropship overhead, provided aerial overwatch. Valkyrie, this is Talon 1. I got swarm movement on the east side. Looks like they're learning where the shield's weakest. Miles replied from the command balcony. Copy Talon 1. Mark the clusters, we'll reinforce. Jax said, or I can just shoot them. Start with that. The dropship's rotary cannons spun up, spitting bright tracer fire into the black mass. The eclipsed shrieked, not one voice but many, different pitches all braided together. Inside the citadel, Varn flinched. You all right? Miles asked. It speaks, Varn said. Not in words, in loss. That is my brother's cadence, my mentor's breath. They are in there. Miles's jaw tightened. We'll get you a chance to say goodbye, or to make them rest. Varn looked at him. You say that like death is not inevitable. I say that like I've seen it beaten, Miles said. Hours passed under an artificial dusk. The air carried ozone and fear. Humans and Ravik soldiers worked side by side, dragging emitter cables, bolting shield nodes into place. Brant. Sector 2 grid stable. If this thing holds, I might even trust alien engineering. If it fails, you will trust alien ghosts. Brant. Fair point. Above them, dropships traced patrol circles. Every few minutes the swarm tested the barrier, a ripple, a hiss, like claws on glass. Inside the command balcony, Miles recorded a log. Miles, they're tired, terrified, and still working. That's how I know we can win. The moment a soldier stops working, the battle's already lost. He looked out over the alien city, all glass and light. Somewhere, he thought, his son would be sleeping under a blue sky. He promised himself someone here would see another dawn. 4 hours into the defense, Yara's voice cut in sharp. Commander, new contacts. Multiple. Larger than swarm signatures. On screen, Miles said. Above Ravik, beyond the black clouds, space rippled. Not Confederacy ships, not pirates. Eclipsed carriers, hollowed-out starships caked in black growth, engines burning the same obsidian hue as the clouds. Those used to be destroyers, Jax said. Used to be. Brant hissed. They're bringing the hive proper. Valkyrie, Miles said, prepare for orbital interdiction. Keep them off our heads. The ship answered in its captain's stead, chain cannons spooling up, missile silos opening. The Valkyrie was small but mean, and it cut a swath through the first wave. But for every ship it shattered, two pushed through, birthing more black drones. Yara, sir. They're trying to smother the planet, full curtain. Miles looked at the shield. Then we push back. He opened the ground channel. All units, new objective. We hold the Citadel at all costs. Ravik civilians stay behind level 2 bulkheads. Marines, Ravik guard, to the outer terraces. Brant's voice was calm. Marines moving. Varn asked quietly, "You stay?" "Always," Miles said. They hit everywhere at once. The eclipse didn't just slam, they flowed. Black, semi-liquid bodies poured over the shield like tar and wind. Where the energy lattice was weakest, they hardened, formed claws, and tore. One section flickered, then failed. "Breach, Western Terrace," came the shout. Brant was already running. "Squad 2 with me." Miles followed. On the terrace, black forms had already made it inside, bipedal mockeries of Ravik and other races, their limbs extruded into blades, their eyes blank. One turned to Miles, its mouth opening with a wet tearing sound. From within it, a voice cried, "Varn, help, it hurts." Varn, arriving breathless behind, choked. That is Ale, my apprentice." The creature twitched, then lunged. Miles fired. Pulse rounds tore pieces of black away, but the eclipse regrew, flowing like mercury. Brant roared and met it with a shock baton, overcharging it. "You do not get to use their voices." Marines formed a line, pushing the things back toward the breach point. Jax dipped the dropship low, strafing the terrace with precision bursts. "Ground, this is Talon 1. Breach sealed in 5-4. The Valkyrie fired a tethered shield projector from orbit, slamming it into place over the gap. The black mass hit it and sizzled. Miles panted, visor splattered with black that smoked in the air. "Report." Brant, "1 injured, not fatal, enemy repelled." Varn stared at the remnants. "You can kill them?" Miles reloaded. "Anything that grows can burn." The siege became chaos. Black shapes rained down like ink turned solid. The shield flared, collapsed, flared again. Humans and Ravik fought shoulder to shoulder, shouting across smoke. Radio, "Squad 3, breach on level 7. Another voice, "Civilians trapped near the east atrium." Miles, "Brant, split your unit. I'll cover the atrium." "You'll be alone." Miles, "Then I'll have room to shoot." He sprinted through corridors of shattered glass. A cluster of Ravik civilians cowered behind a fallen support beam as swarm constructs clawed toward them. Miles raised his rifle. 3 clean bursts. The things fell apart, literally, flowing back into black liquid. You risked everything for a handful of strangers. That's what makes them worth it. Narrator. Above, the Valkyrie dueled the swarm carriers, trading fire bright enough to turn clouds red. Jax's voice crackled through static. "Lost engine 2, still flying, barely." "You always say that." "Yeah, but I mean it this time." On the ground, Sergeant Brant led a countercharge through a flooded plaza. He wrenched a fallen Ravik banner from the ground and slammed it into the rubble. "This is our line. You want through. Pay for it." The defenders roared, human and alien together. The line held. An incoming channel pinged, not local. Wideband, high authority. Yara routed it to Miles' wrist. A stern, cold alien face appeared, tall, with gold skin and a crest of fine spines. Robes of office. Eyes like knives. "This is Admiral Genkor of the Confederacy Intervention Directorate," he said. "Human vessel Valkyrie, you are operating in a restricted kill zone. You are ordered to withdraw immediately." Miles looked around at the burning terrace. "You're late, Admiral." "This zone is compromised," Genkor said. "Containment is the only viable option." "Containment," Miles repeated. "You mean let them die where we don't have to look at it?" "This is a classified biohazard," Genkor snapped. "Your presence endangers every other system." Miles's voice stayed level. "We have civilians here. We have a live citadel, and we've proven the swarm can be repelled." Genkor's eyes narrowed. "Temporarily, it will learn. That is what it does." "Then learn faster," Miles said. Genkor's voice dropped. Human, withdraw, or we will add you to the containment perimeter. Brant, overhearing, snorted. Try it. Miles stared into the Admiral's eyes. No, he said. We're staying. Genkor's crest flared. You will cause political. I will cause survivors. Miles out. He cut the channel. Varn stared at him in disbelief. You defied him. Miles shrugged. He wasn't the one under attack. You risk your people, Varn said. We are our people, Miles said. It's not a risk, it's a duty. Night fell, or what passed for night under the black. The Valkyrie held orbit, trading fire with eclipsed carriers, bleeding but not broken. In the Citadel's central chamber, a glowing map of the city flickered. Miles, Brant, Jax, now helmet off, hair sweat-plastered, and Varn stood around it. Varn pointed. This is the nest, where it's seated, our terraforming core. We tried to make the city more efficient, and we gave it a path. So the swarm grew here, Miles said. Yes, then called to its kin. So we cut it out, Brant said. Jax blinked. You want to do city surgery? Miles thought a moment. No, we do nerve surgery. They looked at him. The Eclipsed works off a local control node. If it's nanite-based with Hive uplink, it needs a high-energy anchor, a brain. He met Varn's eyes. You said you heard your people's voices. Varn nodded, shuddering. It wears them. Then we find the relay, Miles said. We break its ability to sing through them. Brant grinned, slow and wolfish. Finally, a fight with an end. Jax raised a hand. I love this plan. One question. How hard will it try to stop us? Miles said, yes. They went down. Beneath the glittering citadel, the foundations became older, rougher, mixed with grown crystal and repurposed machinery. Then, corruption. Black veins ran through the walls like rot through marble. They pulsed when the swarm above attacked, a single organism, the whole city doomed to be its body. Miles led at point, rifle raised. Brant behind him, 2 Marines. Varn guiding, holding a staff that also doubled as a shield. Over comms, Jax's voice, you've got movement above and behind. They know you're coming. Keep them off the main shield, Miles said. We'll kill whatever's calling them. They reached a chamber, round, glowing with Ravik crystal, and there, in the middle, a throne of black growth. Embedded in it were faces. Ravik, others, half-formed, eyes open but not seeing, mouths moving but not speaking. Varn staggered. Oh, a voice, layered, male and female and child all at once, filled the room. You should not have come, human. We needed this world. Now we must take yours. Miles raised his weapon. Not today. The mass moved. Tendrils lashed. One grabbed a Marine, yanking him off his feet. Brant dove, cut it, hauled the man back. Lock down, Brant roared. The swarm tried to overwhelm with bodies formed from its own mass, but Miles had planned for that. Now Jax. Up above, the dropship fired a focused plasma lance straight down the shaft, a surgical beam that sheared through the black throne. The room lit in white. The voices screamed. Varn cried out, not in pain, but in release. The mass writhed, flailed, and then, with a sound like tearing cloth, it slumped. Above on the surface, the black clouds faltered. The assault on the shield slowed. Yara, on the Valkyrie. Commander, swarm cohesion dropping by 40%. You did something. Miles panted, watching the black rot stop pulsing. We cut its choir. Victory didn't end it. It enraged it. The Eclipse carriers in orbit surged all remaining drones toward the planet, slamming themselves at the Valkyrie. Yara shouted, forward shields at 22%. The captain of the Valkyrie, a steady woman named Imani, called down. Miles, we can't hold orbit much longer. Just hold a little longer, Miles said, wiping sweat. You always say that, Imani replied. Because it's always true. On the ground, the shield sputtered. Brant saw it. We lose that, we drown. Miles opened his comm. Valkyrie, initiate atmospheric burn. Imani hesitated. That'll cook them. That's the point. From orbit, the Valkyrie rotated, venting its engines downward. Superheated plasma licked the upper atmosphere, igniting the disseminated nanite cloud. The sky, which had been black, turned iron red. Jax laughed over comms. Now that's a sunrise. The swarm outside shrieked, burning, falling. The Citadel shield blazed with residual heat, but it held. Varn shielded his eyes. "You burned the sky," Miles said, "only the part that wanted to kill you." By morning, real morning, pale blue filtered through lifting ash, the eclipsed fleet was gone. Not destroyed, but retreating to regrow. The Citadel still stood. Ravik civilians emerged, blinking, into light. On the main terrace, Miles stood with Varn, watching repair drones begin to patch shattered spires. Varn said, "I misjudged your species." Miles looked at him. "That's fair. We misjudged ours too. Thought we were good only for war." "You used war to make peace," Varn said. "That is paradox." "It's human," a hollow pinged. Admiral Gencor's face appeared again, less furious, more resigned. "Commander Miles," he said, "our sensors confirm the eclipsed have withdrawn. Your intervention prevented full planetary loss." Miles folded his arms. "You're welcome." Gencor's eyes flicked. "Your presence here will require explanation." "Explain this," Miles said, and stepped aside so Gencor could see the Ravik survivors. The repaired shield, the human marines laughing with crystal-skinned aliens. "We answered," Miles said. "You didn't." Gencor said nothing. Miles continued, voice steady. "We're transmitting what we found. Swarm relay architecture, their adaptation curve, their weaknesses to thermal surges. You can pretend you developed it in committee. I don't care. Just be ready the next time someone calls." Gencor stared, finally said very quietly, "Why?" Miles frowned. "Why what? Why risk your vessel, your people, your reputation with the Council? These are not human worlds." Miles looked up at the clearing sky. "Because we remember," he said, "what it was like to scream into the dark and get nothing back." He looked straight at Gencor. "We swore we wouldn't be that kind of galaxy." Gencor's face shifted. The barest crack in an old wall. "Your species is inconvenient." Miles smiled faintly. "That's what they tell us." The channel closed. 3 days after the sky burned, Ravik Prime began to live again. Fields outside the Citadel shimmered with reborn crystal. Humans helped rebuild, teaching the Ravik how to weld steel as easily as they sang light. At dusk, Miles stood with Brant and Jax on a half-collapsed balcony, drinking something that might once have been coffee. "Jax, so, officially, we just saved an entire planet with one cruiser and bad ideas. Unofficially, Command's going to pretend this never happened." "Good. That means we did it right." Below, Ravik children painted human helmets on the walls, symbols of salvation, crude but bright. Varn approached, carrying a crystalline tablet. "Your species is unpredictable. We built logic into every decision. You build chaos into yours, and yet somehow you make the universe quieter. We make noise so others don't have to." A transmission pinged from orbit, dozens of faint signatures across neighboring systems. "This is Outpost Hera. We received your broadcast. We are under attack. Please, help." "Another one?" "Yeah. Jax, we going? Plot the course." As the Valkyrie rose once more, Varn's voice echoed through comms. "The Ravik will remember, Commander. The humans who came when no one else would." Miles watched the stars ahead. "Then remember this. We didn't come to conquer. We came to answer." The ship jumped to light, engines carving hope across the dark. Later, in his quarters, Miles sat at his desk and began a log. "Mission report, Commander Elias Miles, EAS Valkyrie. Distress call from Ravik Prime answered. Enemy. Eclipse Swarm. Nanite Adaptive uses absorbed consciousness as battle command. Recommend designation. Cognitive parasitic aggressor. Outcome, Citadel saved. Population partial but viable. Local hive relay destroyed. Atmospheric nanite cloud burned off. Note to Council, containment is not a strategy. Someone will always be on the other side of the fire. If you won't answer, others will. Note to Earth, we did today what we wished someone had done for us. End log." He paused, then added softer. "We were called Deathworlders. Let the record show, we came to save." A chime. Jax's voice from the corridor. "Commander, you gotta see this." Miles stepped out onto the balcony. Below, on the plaza, humans and Ravik were gathered. Marines had set up a field kitchen. Kids, Ravik kids were climbing on abandoned barricades, and in the middle Sergeant Brandt was teaching a group of crystalline aliens how to throw a proper tackle. Jax grinned. Universal constant, sir. We show up, we bring sports. Miles laughed, really laughed, the sound releasing days of iron. Yeah, he said. Maybe that's how we win, not just by fighting. Varn approached, holding a small crystalline device. This is our archive node, he said. It contains our history, our songs, our mistakes. I want your people to have a copy. Miles took it carefully. We'll keep it, and if the swarm comes again, we will call, Varn said. Miles nodded. Then we will answer. He looked up at the sky, no longer black but a faint, healing blue. The galaxy itself could have said, humanity did not arrive to conquer. It arrived to remember. And in answering the call no one else would, it became the voice everyone else needed. The Valkyrie lifted, its engines washing the plaza with warm air. As it climbed, the ship began transmitting on wideband. Not just tactical data, not just coordinates. A message. To any colony, any species, any flag, if you are under eclipsed assault, Earth has heard your first call. You will not be alone again. Somewhere in the dark between stars, other signals, small, frightened, began to answer back. And for the first time in a long time, the galaxy didn't just fear the Deathworlders. It was relieved they were there.